Great. So I'm Vino, and I'm one of the research fellows, and I've probably met a lot of you in clinic before. So research is a big part of what we do, and we're one of the leaders internationally in channelopathy research through UCL and through the National Hospital for Neurology. So I'm just going to touch base today on some of our projects and some of our sort of bigger projects, but we are involved in lots of different things. We are at the moment running a trial called MEN, so Mexiletine versus lamotrigine in non-dystrophic myotonia. So it's a trial comparing lamotrigine and Mexiletine to see which one is preferred by patients, which one is more effective, and which one's more tolerated in terms of side effects and the side effect profile. And I won't go too much into it because we've sort of already touched on the differences between them, but there are differences, some benefits and risks for either, and Deep has touched on them. So lamotrigine, for example, can use in pregnancy, which we're very excited about because I'm sure some of you have your own experiences about myotonia getting a lot worse during pregnancy, for example, and Mexiletine can't be used in pregnancy. And then lamotrigine, for example, doesn't give you reflux, heartburn, and a lot of you may have experienced that with Mexiletine. Can also get lamotrigine from your GP, and a lot of other doctors know about lamotrigine because it's used for other things. It's been on the market for a very long time, used for lots of other conditions. So a lot of people are familiar with it, which makes it a lot easier. Whereas Mexiletine is only used now for myotonia. But then Mexiletine also has some advantages. So it works quickly, but it also comes off quickly. So you can sort of vary the dose a little bit easier, for example. But for some people, you might prefer a smoother action for lamotrigine, of lamotrigine. So for example, if you accidentally miss a dose, you wouldn't notice it so much with lamotrigine. Whereas, you might know that with Mexiletine, if you miss a dose, you can really feel that you get the stiffness. So there are differences between the two, and the aim of the study is to see which one is better in terms of patient preference and efficacy. So this is kind of, it goes over a total of about 4 months, where you're on 2 months of each medication. And so far, we've done really well. Thank you to everyone who's been involved in the trial. So actually, since I've done the trial, two more people have, it's not only slides, 2 more people have signed up. So we've got 56 people 54 who are on the trial and 2 more who have signed up. So that's fantastic. And that's, we're really grateful for all of you who've been involved in the trial, because we think it's a very important question. And because it translates directly back to the information that we can use in clinic to tell you which one's better, which one, and how people respond to the medications, side effects, etc. So it's a very important question to look at. So we do have 4 more spots on the trial. So if anyone is interested in being on the trial, and then please do get in contact. It is a nice trial in that it allows you to sort of very nicely directly compare lamotrigine and Mexiletine for yourself, and compare the side effects, compare the efficacy, and see how they work for yourself. So not only does it help us a lot, you might find it very helpful to compare within yourself to see what suits you better. So we do have 4 more slots. If anyone's interested, please do get in contact with me. And then hopefully at our next patient day, we'll be able to give you some results from the trial. So another big project that we're very interested in is looking at the role of MRI, at looking at the muscles in all of the channelopathies, so myotonia as well as periodic paralysis, and Anderson-Towel as well. But this is just an example of one slice of an MRI. This is through your thighs that you can see here. This is just an example. Muscle MRI looks very different between different people, different conditions, and that's what we're trying to look more into. What what does the muscle MRI look like in different people with different channelopathies? And then importantly, can we use it to pick up any early changes of the muscle being damaged or affected? And maybe that might change how we do things in the clinic, for example. And this is still really in a research stage. We do use muscle MRI in clinic, more in periodic paralysis, to have a look to see if we can guide treatment now. But really we need to explore how the muscle MRI changes over time in a research setting before we can use it more routinely in clinical practice. So keep your eyes peeled for more updates on this. Now we have a study at the moment for patients who have myotonia, either chloride or sodium channel, who are on Nemuscular. So Nemuscular is the newer branded version of Mexiletine, which is from Lupin, the pharmaceutical company. And so for patients who are on Nemuscular, if you would like to be involved in this trial, we'd be very grateful for your participation. So this is a trial that Lupin are conducting to look at the effects of Mexiletine and how you respond, how your condition changes with Mexiletine, if you have side effects over time. So there's no extra visits or extra bits that you need to do other than what you would normally do when you come to see us in your channelopathy clinic visits, which might be in person or via phone. So that information that we collect when we see you is what we would put into the sort of data collection for Lupin. And then there's a diary that you complete about your symptoms and side effects while you're on Nemuscular. So it's quite a simple trial. It's not a particularly difficult trial, and it gives Lupin and us also a better understanding of the effects of Mexiletine long-term and your condition long-term. So if you're interested in being involved in PASS, send us an email on our general email, and Ivana and Deepa and myself will get back to you. Ivana's our research nurse who's coordinating the trial, so we can link you up with that. So some other projects that we're doing. So ATS, as we've spoken about, there's the cardiac risk with ATS, and we always get you to see a cardiologist. And a few of you have had cardiac monitors that we've sent out, but we're going to try and see if we can do a sort of longitudinal, so in the future, looking at how handheld home monitors work with cardiac monitoring for ATS. So if it's useful to have home monitoring with a handheld device for ATS. So we're going to set this up in the future in a sort of more routine way. So look out for that. You can email me if you're interested in being involved in that in the future. And now we work closely with Rupi, who you'll meet later on, who's our brilliant senior electrophysiologist and scientist. And one of the other sides of the research that we do, which is a little bit less clinical, it's more sort of scientific, is trying to understand the effects of your genetic change on the currents in the muscle cells. And so we can look at this by recording the electrical currents. And Rupi will talk about this later, but we're trying to see if we can understand these effects a bit better. And one of the projects is looking at these currents in some of the cases that Pinky spoke about. So in children, for example, who have some trouble with the breathing or trouble with throat spasm, and putting together those cases and seeing if we can understand what happens electrically in those kind of channel problems. And also one of the things we're moving to do to see if we can use newer developments like machine learning and artificial intelligence to see if we can use those techniques in our data to try and see if that can help us in the future as well. So a bit more complicated and complex research in the sort of scientific domain that we do. Now, I just wanted to touch on, so when you come to clinic, we often ask you to be involved in our cohort study, which is just when you come in, we ask you to fill in some questionnaires about how the condition affects you, and, you know, we might do some time sit to stand tests and things like that. And this is really important for us because it gives us a really good understanding of how myotonia and periodic paralysis and ATS affects you and changes over the course of your life. And this is an example of some of the information that we get from that cohort data that we get from those questionnaires you do. And I think we spoke about this last time as well, but you know, we get an idea of pregnancies and, you know, how that plays out in channelopathy. So when you come to clinic and we ask you to be involved in the cohort data, which tells us about your condition, you know, we're really grateful because it allows us to look back and see, you know, pull out information like pregnancies or stiffness or pain, fatigue, and look at that information, and that guides future research and also helps us with understanding your condition better. So that's a very important part for us. So I just wanted to leave it there, a bit of a whirlwind tour of all of the research we do, but, you know, very important that, you know, we collaborate with you, and if you have ideas, we're very happy to hear from you as well. And most importantly, thank you for being involved in our research. You can always email me if you're interested. Thank you.